Hey everybody, so happy you all came here. Thank you so much. You can clap if you want to. Thank you, I appreciate that. Yes, we are here in the Woodland Farm Brewery in Utica. So happy that you guys came today. I haven't been able to go live because of either tough positions we've been in or not good cell service, but now finally go live. So happy for those of you watching. Thank you so much for watching. I want to bring up a lot of different things. And one of the things I want to bring up, which I did not talk to some of you about, is my plan for actually doing things differently this time. And I've been asking a lot of people, I've been calling people up, asking them, seeing what they think makes the most sense. Last time when we ran, we did good. We did good. We raised $500,000. We got 6 figures worth of votes. We got ballot access for the party. That's all good. Happy that that happened. But I want to do more this time. And to be forward, we made some errors too. Excuse me here. We made some mistakes too. We did make some errors. And I think we can do things better this time. Last time I ran as Libertarian, I will still, of course, run Libertarian. But here in New York State, we have fusion voting, which allows us to have more than one line. So I'm considering not just running as Libertarian, but also running in the Republican primary. If I run the Republican primary, I run as Libertarian still. If I win that primary, I would actually be listed as a Republican and listed as Libertarian. I'd be listed twice on the ballot. And if the Conservative Party gives me their line, 3 times on the ballot. So listed 3 times on the ballot mean that you could pick either one of them. You can't vote 3 times. That'd be awesome if you could, but you can't. You vote any one of them, and that gives me an opportunity to maybe get more people to hear our message, to have more impact in this election. But I'm still not done. I'm also considering running on other lines, right? There is a Unite New York line. Maybe that one would also help. Keeping people who want the groups of people to be talking more, having some of them talking about things like ballot access, talking about things like open primaries, talking about things like ranked choice voting, things like that would make it better for everybody to run, to have more parties and more choice for people in New York State. But also, you may have heard, Mr. Andrew Yang has left the Democratic Party. And he now has his own party called the Forward Party. So I'm just going to try to get his line also, and even have the Forward Party line. Larry, you want all the lines. Yes, I want all of the lines. Yes, all of them. I want to be listed like 45 times in the ballot if I could, 3,000 times, whatever the case may be. Why would I care about those things? Because no matter what, I'm still a registered Libertarian. So I'm still Libertarian either way. This is a way of getting additional lines and having other lines and having people have an opportunity to vote for me who might not have voted for me in any other way. Having the Republican line would allow me to get the vast majority of Republicans in New York State. That's awesome. But also, it allows me to be able to get some of the infrastructure and some of the money the Republican Party could give to move forward and also to re-energize the party in this state. For those of you who live in like Oklahoma or something like that, a very red state, Democratic Party is probably broken in your state. In my state, a very blue state, the Republican Party is broken in my state. Right? The Republican Party in my state, maybe it's 1/3 or so are totally checked out. Don't care at all. Ready to move, don't care. Another 1/3 are going to be establishment, no matter what. Another 1/3 can't wait for somebody for me to run and energize the state in general. There's also a bunch of independents who are saying, Larry, I just want another choice. I want someone else to run. I'll take that. Those who might vote for me on the Libertarian line, or maybe on Yang's Forward line, or the Unite line. The Forward line gives me a left-leaning line. Why do I care about that? To make impact, you got to have city votes. You have to. And I did not do a good job of that last time when I ran. I did not do a good job of getting city votes. I got to spend more time doing that. And Andrew Yang's party, he's still popular in New York City. So maybe we can actually get some good votes out of New York City. Maybe make real impact and make this an actual winnable race. An actual winnable race. Could you imagine if we actually win? Let's say we don't. Let's say we run, we don't win. But we come in second. Think about how powerful even that would be. Even coming in second. All my ideas that I've talked about have been on my website literally for 4 years. All of you have seen it. You've watched. I haven't changed. I've been talking about them all the time as I cross this state. I talk about my ideas all the time. How many politicians have you heard who adopted some ideas? Yeah, 0. They don't. They don't want to change. They want to yell other guy bad. And they do a good job of that. They're very good at that. They're very good yelling other guy bad. But they're not good at actually answering questions, not good at actually coming up with solutions to fix things. They're not. If I actually become more and more popular, the solutions have to be talked about. You might go, Larry, I like some music, but some I don't. I don't like this one or that one. But guess what you have to talk about now? The solution, not just other guy bad, right? Here's how it works now. I'm the Republican or Democrat. Larry, how are you going to fix schools? By caring about schools. Awesome. How? By caring and giving. Great. How? By giving and caring. But how? Did I tell you how bad that guy is? That guy's terrible. He's the worst. He's killing you all. I got it. He's killing us all. But how do you do it? Well, let me tell you again how bad he is. He killed more people than I did. I mean, you know, I killed one guy, but he killed like 4. So he's worse. That's the current. And it doesn't matter. I can be Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. And if I'm in a deep red district, I don't even bother campaigning. I just win the Republican nomination and I walk away. If I'm in a Democratic district, I don't bother campaigning. I just win the nomination and I walk away. Doesn't matter. In my city, New York City, it is so bad. It's Democrats 6-1. And so bad that a note went out to every registered voter. If you want to have any say in New York City politics, change your registration to Democrat. Yes. And if you're in New York right now, New York City, listening to this, you're like, oh, you got that too? Yeah, I did. I got that too. All the New York City residents got that. Voters, sorry, and the voters, registered voters got that. We all got that note. Isn't that terrible? That's where we are now.
Who sent it?
I'm sorry?
Who sent it?
It was some PAC or some association sent it because they were like, you know, go ahead and just vote, you know, just stop pretending that any other party matters. Stop pretending. Yes, you're laughing, but that's what actually happened. Yes. And no one got mad. Everyone was like, yeah, they're right. They're not lying. They're right. Maybe I should just change registration. That's actually starting to happen. I didn't, by the way. I'm still libertarian, but I'm saying a lot of my friends are like, Larry, I can't change registration because I got to have control somehow. So they wind up keeping the same registration of whatever the gerrymandering district they're in. It's a common problem, but it's big in New York State. So I wanted to bring that up so you knew what I was thinking about, what my new idea or concept was. But all my plans to fix this state have not changed. They're similar plans with additions. Because if you look at what's happened since I ran last time, and since no one paid attention to anything I said, is that now we have about 500,000 less people in New York State and a budget that's about $30 billion higher, maybe $40 billion higher. So we've added $40 billion in debt and in budget and lost 500,000 bodies. Now, you do not have to have a master's in mathematics to figure out that's not good for taxpayers. You can just know regular math, not even Common Core math, and figure out that that's going to be bad for taxpayers. So I would ask you, can you ask anybody, any politician running, what's their solution for this? If they are a Democrat, they will say, well, we have to fund people more. We have to fund the local governments more. I'm not joking. Remember when we were doing COVID lockdowns? Still in some places. We're doing COVID lockdowns, and the money was coming in from the federal government. Uncle Joe was writing us big checks. Remember that? Uncle Joe was writing us big checks. And the first thing I said was, well, we have to fund local things like local police and local fire departments and local sanitation and local government offices and fund local government offices. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, how do we usually fund these things? Through taxes, right? So why wouldn't you instead give the money to the people and business owners so they can keep their businesses going, so they could pay taxes, so we could fund the police and the fire departments and the government, right? Now, it usually works. It didn't, though. Do you notice how all the essential workers, they were all government workers? Do you notice that? I did. So now we're at a point where the government workers are more important than the average worker. That's where we are right now. So when you ask me, how do you fix it? They go, well, just write more checks. Have you ever heard me have any plan to just write more checks? Never. Government does 4 things very well, and it will always fall back to these 4 things to solve any problem. 1, kill people. Really good at that. Particularly if you want to kill them indiscriminately, so good, right? So if you ever want to just kill people, it'll do that. Great, well done. 2nd, imprison people. Really good at creating laws, putting people in jail for no reason. Really good at that. I've been in a couple of recent vape shops and CBD shops. And I asked the person there who was working there, I said, I have a question. Besides, age, what law should exist for the shop? She said, well, you know, I'm more about kids. I said, yeah, I agree with you, right? Maybe 18 or older to purchase something in the shop. Okay, I'll buy that. Besides that, what are the laws required? She went, you know, I don't know. I said, exactly. Exactly. Why do you have to have any extra laws? If you have a product that's bad, there's already a law against that. If you're lying, it's fraud. There's already a law against that. If you cheat somebody, there's already a law against that. There's already laws against all these other things, right? So what do we need extra ones? I said, when you're selling these things, she was selling a bunch of glass things. She goes, well, we can only call them certain things. I said, what can you call them? She goes, well, we can't call them bombs. I said, oh, okay. Why can't you call them bombs? Well, you know, we get in trouble. Oh, because that's illegal. She went, yeah, that's considered paraphernalia. She went, yeah. So let me ask you. So you can't, so if you don't call it a bomb, you can sell it. She's like, yeah. So what kind of law is that? I said, that's a possession law. Why is possession of anything a crime? Say again? Yes. Why is possession of a crime? I have a bomb. Is that a crime? Yeah, because New York State says so, but what have I done to hurt someone? Did I steal the bomb? If I stole it, that's a crime. Did I hit someone over the head with it? That's a crime. Yeah, makes sense. But I have it. That's a crime. But if I don't call it a bomb, I call it a glass structure, now I'm good. Now I'm good. So government's very good at that. Locking people up, stuff like that, so good at that. Lock them up for something that just they decide. Very good. Third thing, creating bureaucracy. Checking boxes to make it feel like we're doing something. Very good at that. Very good. Last, writing checks. Government writes checks better than anybody else in the world, better than banks. Government writes checks like there's no tomorrow. So when there's a problem, the government will do one of those four things. But the worst part is, now most Americans expect that and now believe that something's solved. There's a problem now with schools. What should we do? Pass a law, write a check, solved. We believe it, we feel it. And then 5 years from now, when nothing's changed, we get mad. Why did things not change? All you did was write a check and pass a law. You didn't change the culture. You didn't change the game. You didn't change anything. Nothing changes. Every single rule, regulation, policy I come up with never has those four things in it. I focus on four things. One, never, ever a new tax, fine, or fee, ever. Number two, never any type of police force, new police force that will pop up to put people in jail or punishment. No force, no punishment. You know, we have this new healthful environment thing we passed right now in New York State. I guarantee you, within 6 months, there is going to be a health police. And they will have badges. And they will have badges. And they will come in to places just like this, and they will fine you for all types of things. Because they can. It will be a money grab. How in the world can they pay their own salaries? Someone's got to pay their salaries, and shiny new badges. Badges cost money. So do uniforms. So do cool cars they're going to have. Say again? They got to make up a bunch of money. They got to make up that cash. We lost a bunch of money this year. Someone's got to pay for it. That's you.
But it was some pretty wording. Who doesn't want
It was pretty wording. I'll give them that it was. Who doesn't want a healthy environment? That sounds awesome. Who's gonna decide the health environment? It's going to be corporate lobbyists who will benefit from it. It's going to be the people literally who are going to be selling the government the cars they use to go around, then the uniforms they use to put people in, and the badges. It'll be those corporate lobbyists who will write it, and they'll say, if the air quality isn't blah, 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 they'll make it up. They'll call it like air punishment or whatever. They'll call it something that'll sound cool. They'll come in. The beeper will go off. You won't know what the beeper is. Neither will they. The beeper will go off. Give me $300.
Carbon tax?
Yes, whatever. That'll come up and you'll just give them money. That's what we'll do. So that's what we're going to do. None of these solve problems. None of these make anything better. None. So let me go down a couple of ideas. An older one and then a couple of newer ones. Let me go right back to, because I was at the vape shop. Let me go to the vape shop, and the breweries will work too. I will ask, why in the world are there extra taxes on tobacco or breweries or vape products or any of those? Why are there extra taxes? You might know.
Make more money for the government.
Yes, that's the only reason. That's the reason. That is the reason. Because they can. Literally in the vaping industry, they decided to ban flavored vapes. You might go, well, Larry, why do I can't vape? Okay, great, but some people do. I don't drink. Some people do. I don't smoke. Some people do. So I decide what I want for everybody in the world. This would be a boring world because I'm pretty boring. So it'd be a boring world if you're going to do whatever I say. That's a pretty boring world. I would like you to do what you feel is appropriate. But we can ban the vapes, but there's still flavored vodka. There's still flavored. Say again?
I've been saying that for like a year.
Yes, there's still flavored vodka, right? And do adults not eat sugary cereals? Do adults not eat Lucky Charms or Captain Crunch or whatever is the cool cereal? Of course they do. It makes no sense except I can ban it to keep my tobacco lobbyist happy so I can get paid. If I'm governor, none of that happens. But Larry, you can't stop laws. You're right, I don't make laws, but I enforce them. Yeah, I do. I do enforce them. And when I say we're not going to enforce that law, and they go, Larry, that's horrible. Good, see you in court. Because when they put me in court and when we have to go public, I will publicly say, look how stupid this is. What is wrong with you? You all corrupt. You're getting money from the tobacco lobbies and you don't actually care about the kids. Now go one step further on vaping. One step further on this. There was stories about kids who had died from vaping products. People said, oh my God, these kids have died from vaping products. See, clearly vaping is evil. For those who don't know, the kids who bought those products bought them from the black market. So the store owners were doing a very good job of carding everybody and not selling any stuff to kids. There's no evidence of that happening at all, none. And they looked, of course they did, and there's none. So the law came down. What did the law do? It made everything more expensive and harder for the actual people who were doing the right thing. So they got punished, which puts more people in the black market. So they rewarded the child killers. Let me say it again. They rewarded the people who killed children and punished the people who cared about kids. That's what our government did, and pat us up on the back and said, aren't we moral? So they did for the children. When I talked before about vaping or about beer or about cannabis, all those things, what I said constantly was, we don't want heavy taxes on these things. And people get upset. Larry, we got to tax them. Tax it and fix the roads, or tax it and so-and-so. Tax these breweries and fix this and fix that all the time. And my response is, if I tax it, I am retaining a black market. Right? My team did these numbers. And from what our numbers we came up with, about 3 to 4% is the actual number. What I mean by that. If you're outside, want to come in here or not, and the price for whatever you want to purchase in here is $1.03 versus $1 on a black market, you come in here. Once that's going to 4, 5, 6, 8, 10%, you start going to the black market. So people do. So let's tax it 30%, 40%. Great. People will still go to jail for having a substance. You will still have a black market, and people punished will always be the same people, the poor people. The people who can't afford to go and pay the extra money. They're the ones who get punished. They're the ones who go to prison. They're the ones who lose their jobs. They're the ones who their lives are ruined. So we now have, in our state, cannabis. Aren't we happy? Oh my God. No one, wow, not one person clapped. Okay, there we go. Yes, okay, one, good. Yeah, because you know, what they did was they have a massive tax. It's a massive tax. In certain places, it's going to equal up to 19% tax. You might say, well, Larry, why is that so bad? It's going to keep a black market. How do I know this? California. Some of you may have heard this before. There's so much tax in the California cannabis market that there were black market cannabis growers in Northern California. So the legal cannabis growers got mad and they said, government, look at what's happening. These black market, guys are making money and hurting our crop. And of course, the California government, being as savvy as it is, immediately said, you know what? Let's change our tax code and make it fair. No, it didn't happen. Of course not. No, of course not. Of course it didn't happen. They decided to send the cops in to grab and confiscate all of the cannabis that was illegal, and then pay a consultant, I'm not joking, taxpayer money, to burn it all. Yes, that actually happened. That's going to be New York State. We're going to copy that. Because we have now, in case you didn't know this, the new rule is an Office of Cannabis Management. You hear that one? For literally hundreds of years, cannabis has been in the black market. Where are all the deaths from cannabis? There's none. There's none. But now that we're going to make it legal, well, it's dangerous. We got to have the Office of Cannabis Management. No, here's what the office will be. It will be a bunch of cronies, 3 picked by the governor. I'm not joking. That's actually going to happen. 3 by the governor, 1 by the Senate, and 1 by the Assembly. These will be 3 heavy donors of all the people that they will reward to be on this. And then they will ensure their friends are able to win a bunch of bids to be able to have cannabis licenses. Cannabis license will probably cost in the area of $250,000 each. How does a small farmer pay for that? They don't. They can't. What's going to happen to them? Their land's going to be bought out by a very large real estate company. They're already looking at jobs. Can't wait. So big real estate's going to win in cannabis. Our farmers are going to get crushed. What was my plan? I remember cannabis. Regulate it like onions. That is correct. That was exactly my plan. Literally, take out the rules for onions, scratch off onion, put cannabis, law done. That's it. That simple. Why? If you regulate like a plant, what happens is now the little guy can win. Now the farmer can decide to have a small craft grow if they want to. We should be supporting the entrepreneur class all the time, and we don't. The entrepreneur class is critical. Why? The entrepreneur class gives people second chances. The entrepreneur class cares about the local economy, right? Katie, you came back because you cared about Utica. Yes, and people know she left and came back, right? Because she cares. A local entrepreneur came back because she cares, and she's not alone. That's a common thing. People open up small businesses because they care about their local economy and they want to make things better. They give people a second chance. I do this all the time. Whenever I'm in a diner, I will literally tell anybody here, anybody who's here, I'll guarantee you if the diner's here, that person has hired many convicted felons. And then I ask the owner, and they always go, yeah. Why does that matter? Because what happens when you're in trouble? You're a convicted felon. You have a broken resume because you were an addict. Maybe you tried some crazy business and failed, and now you don't have a good enough education. Maybe you were a stay-at-home mom for many years. You're divorced now. You don't have a good resume. You don't have a skill set. Now you're trying to deal with your family. Maybe your spouse passed away. Any number of many reasons why you might be in a bad spot right now. Who's going to give you help? A big corporation? No, they literally have systems in place to make sure they don't hire you. Who's going to hire you? Local guy, local gal. She's going to give you that second chance. That's why I say support the local entrepreneurs. We don't do that. What I said about cannabis, we should go further. Breweries, wineries, vape shops, doesn't matter. If you agree in New York State that you will just sell locally within New York State, you should be immune from all federal regulatory bodies. Period. Wyoming already does it. Wyoming does it. Why can't we? Same thing. Why? You're selling in the state. Why should you have to worry about federal regulations? If you're crossing the border, it's fine. You're selling it locally. Why should you worry about it? Well, Larry, how would that help? I'll tell you how it would help. Number one, now every other big company, they sell across the border. They have to follow it. You have a small advantage. But Larry, is that fair? Yes, because big companies have massive advantages. Let's give little guy something. To little guy something. Not just that. I'll go one step further. If you decide that you want to hire anyone who we would consider the undesirables when it comes to hiring, someone who has a broken resume, someone who's going to be a felon, the government can make a checkbox or whatever that is. No payroll tax for 2 years. No payroll tax for 2 years. People all the time say, well, Larry, then some guy, some brewery is going to hire felons for 2 years and fire them and just keep hiring felons every 2 years and never paying, the tax on them, the payroll tax. Good, you're training my felons. Thank you. Please take that model up. That'd be amazing. I wish more companies take that model up. Now they're not going back to prison, and we're paying them $70,000 to $100,000 a year to keep them in prison, and they pay no taxes, and we just pay for them. More than happy that somebody picks up that model and just starts training our felons and give them a resume, give them a second chance. Good. Please do that. There's no downside to this. None. And it can be voluntary. No one's forcing you. No, there's no police in that. There's no forcing in that. If you say, I don't like felons, don't hire them. You go, I like to save some taxes. I'll hire some. Hire them. Up to you. I hope you do. But I'm still not done. Could you imagine if we treated all of our farmers like small business owners, not like farmers? Imagine if every farmer was able to get a small business loan, not instead of having to put their farm up and then wait 10 years for them to lose their farm. Now they lose their farm in 10 years versus 1 year. They still lose their farm, but now they get small business loans. Well, they want to change what they're doing around here. They don't want to just have the farm, but they also want to have a retail outlet, or they want to have a marketing outlet, or they want to have a wholesale outlet. Let them. Why do we have to make them pay thousands upon thousands of dollars to do that, to change some zoning rule? How dumb is that? It's their land. Put what you want on it. I don't care. How do you do that? Now, farmers wouldn't have to go to banks and get loans and fall behind. They can get investors and put businesses out. But more importantly, their children might stay, because now there's a viable business model at that farm. It's not just a part-time passion that mom or dad has, which is sadly how so many farms are. It's a part-time passion that mom or dad has, or aunt or grandma or grandpa. Now it's a viable business model. Now the kids stay. Now they go to school, learn something, and bring it back to the farm and keep it, because that will build a business out, instead of just having larger and larger companies keep buying up more and more farms. Does that make sense? In New York State, if you're watching this, you might not know this. This is an old state, and there are farms that have been in people's families for 6, 7 generations. That exists in this state. Some states not. This state it does. And all of a sudden now they're all going away. In my view, that's a cultural crime. I would like to not make that happen. If at all possible, I could save any of that, to save any of them if I possibly could. I think it matters. Dairy farmers, same issue. Dairy farmers now, for many of them, is waiting for whatever price is, and they're hoping they get the price. If not, they got to pour their milk out. They're going to just lose money. There's no tomorrow. We see it all the time. Instead, treat them the same way. What if they want to create craft cheeses, craft yogurts, craft ice creams? Let them if they want to. Don't charge them extra. Treat them like a business. Go do it if you want to. Instead, we decide to try to get another company to come to us, and we bribe them to come here to compete with the local farmers. That was our answer. Remember that? We try to bribe other businesses to come here to compete with our farmers, and bribe them to do so. So just saying, do it if you want to. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, but a lot of farmers don't want to do that. They don't have to. But imagine if just 10%, 15% said, you know what? I'm not going to sell my milk in the market. I'm going to start craft cheeses. I'm going to start craft this, craft that, craft ice cream. I'm going to put a retail outlet on my farm, and I'm going to sell it here. I'm going to do it. They start making money. Good for them. That's 10 to 15% less milk on the market. What happens to the milk price? It goes up. I don't have to have the master's degree in economics to figure that one out. So now even those who stay price takers get more money. Those who become price makers have a chance to grow a real business in the state. Particularly looking up here, Central New York, North Country. How many people do you know who work for a franchise, work for the government, or the one big thing in the town? The hospital, the university, prison. How many? Tons of places. The Walmart, or some franchise, Subway, whatever, Tim Hortons, some franchise, right? Some big franchise thing. So they work for. That's not a healthy environment. That's not healthy. So that's why we move on to move forward. But I'm gonna go one step further. I'm gonna give you something that some people think is crazy when I say it, but I'm saying anyway. We have to fix our budget. It is horribly broken. How do we fix it? Raise taxes is what I hear. Or cut taxes is what I hear. And none of it's going to work. It's not going to happen. I'm going to give you something even crazier. We need to create a New York State currency. I'm not joking. We need to create a New York State currency. It should be either based upon gold or based upon cryptocurrency. I'm not sure which one yet. I haven't got the team together to figure out what's the right answer. We need to create a New York State currency. It can exist. It's not against the law as long as it's just in New York State. Why would I want to create a New York State currency? Because I want to pay for education through a New York State currency. The education budget is somewhere between $60 and $70 billion a year. One of the biggest problems with currencies is how you're going to use it. What are you going to use it? People don't want to use it. They want to use dollars. I'm going to give you a $60 billion market right now. Right now. You want anything to do with education in New York State, you have to take this coin. You want to sell us books. You want to sell us curriculum. You want to sell us schools. You want to sell us maintenance products, services, whatever. Awesome. You got to take our coin. And say, well, Larry, they're not going to want this coin. They're going to want dollars. Okay, no worries, no worries. Transfer it over from the New York State coin to dollars. You have to use a bank, won't you? The bank will charge a transaction fee, won't it? What do banks really love? Transaction fees, boy, they do, absolutely. And they're one of the largest lobbyist groups in the state. They get to just transfer stuff over? Yeah, they do. Man, banks like that, transfer it over. But if you want to still use it, you can. Go ahead.
Wouldn't wouldn't the trade-off though, they'd be losing a bit of their influence? Wouldn't they be if you're adding a layer on top of their traditional currency? Wouldn't they be more incentivized to act against your interests?
Yeah, they could, but my other option is default. So I can default, that's an option, or you can do this. There's your other option. It is unsustainable. The odds are Illinois will be defaulting before we will, but Illinois will eventually default. There's no way they can survive. Illinois is in a terrible place. They're going to default. The pension bomb is destroying them. I mean, you saw how bad it was in Texas, some parts of Texas where they weren't even paying their cops anymore because the pension bomb was so big. They're laying off cops because they couldn't pay for their pensions. That's happening with us already, right? It's going to happen in Illinois before us. I would like to stop that before it happens. I was the only one 4 years ago talking about the pension bomb. Nobody else was. And now we're seeing it even more. I was talking about it then. I'm talking about it now. So the other option is default. I guess you could take that if you want to. I can say, I'm not paying you. That debt we owe you? Yeah, no. See you in court, I guess. I don't have any money anyway, so sorry. I could do that, I guess. There's another option. But either way, I'm telling you, we have a $400 to $500 billion debt already in New York State. Our budget is $220 billion and getting bigger, and our deficit next year will be about $50 billion in deficit next year. We're finished. Like, we're in trouble, right? Unless Uncle Joe's gonna keep writing us checks, and I guess he could if he wants to. Maybe Uncle Joe keep writing us checks, I guess, maybe. But I'm assuming eventually even that'll run out, I'm assuming, right? So we gotta fix something. So we do that. Now here's the best part about this. It gets better. This idea is good on many levels, which is why I think it'll happen. Let me explain why it's good. Number one, that happens. So that takes $60 billion off our budget immediately. Boom. Now our budget goes right down to $160 billion. That's less than it was when I was complaining about it before. Number one, that's not done. Now we take that money and we pay for education directly out of Albany. Directly. So every school district, depending on how many students you have, you get $18,000 in this coin every single year. There's your money. We change the entire system. Comes out, boom. So how do I reorganize? It doesn't matter how you reorganize. You get paid by students. Reorganize any way you want. However you want to reorganize your school district, go ahead. You get paid by students. There's your money. But Larry, what if we don't spend the money? Save it. Right now, some of you don't know this. If they don't spend their money, they lose it for next year. So they literally have to spend all of their money. So literally they're like, we don't have anything. Well, I guess we could buy a football field. I'm serious. So they buy a football field. Or they literally fill up the storeroom with extra pads and papers. This happens all the time. If you're in education, this is true. It happens all the time. When I was in the Marine Corps, it happened, right? In the Marine Corps, I know you guys are veterans who know this. The end of the fiscal year is October. So September, where are you if you're in the military? You're on the range firing off your machine guns, getting rid of all your rounds. You don't spend them all, you don't get it the next year. So it was so bad sometimes we'd be breaking equipment because we have a budget for repairs. So back in the 80s when I was a Marine, the night vision goggles now are on your helmet, but back then you would actually put them on. Old school. Have to actually put them on, right? So we have them down, sledgehammer, break them. Literally, this is your tax money. I'm breaking equipment so we can make it for the budget for next year. That's what we have in right now in our school system. So instead, I just say, you don't spend the money, keep it. Crazy, right? You could save the money and buy a football field when you want to buy a football field. But I'm not done. Since in our special coin, you give every family who wants to either private school or homeschool $4,000 credit per year. $4,000. Guess how much private schools will cost in New York State? $4,000. That's what they'll cost. That's what it will cost to go to private school in New York State. $4,000, because that's what you get. $4,000. Imagine if you were a homeschooler and you could spend $4,000 to homeschool your kids. Wouldn't that be easier? Now, when bad things like what happened last week, lockdowns happened, the local people could actually support themselves. They couldn't this time. Across this country, we lost 4 million kids. Just lost schooling. Lost. They lost the entire year. Gone. Because the communities couldn't support them. They had no idea how. Whenever you add government, you remove community. And the communities didn't know how to support it because government had been supporting it for so long. So imagine that. Keep going.
So so this would be, you'd be incentivizing it through the education system. Use this for small businesses, just all throughout.
You could if you wanted to, up to you. It's a currency. If you want to use it in your store, you could, up to you. If you wanted to, up to you. You want to use that currency, go ahead. You only pay taxes when you transfer the dollars. Right? It's fine. Or if I want to, in theory, I could make everybody pay taxes in that if I wanted to. In theory. But I think that's probably a bridge too far. Probably a bridge too far. Maybe for 20 years from now. Maybe a bridge too far. But I want to keep going if I could. There's more to this. If I do that, now the money by default follows the kid, number one. Number two, we spend right now $28,000 per kid per year. I'm down to 18. We just cut our budget down, which means what we don't need is federal funding. Federal funding is only 10%. It's only $6 billion. Once I cut that down, I don't need federal funding. So now that means all the administrators that are required for federal funding, for federal checkboxing, for state checkboxing, for grant writing, are all now redundant. The average teacher in New York State makes about $80,000 a year. The average administrator is over $200,000. You can now, there are administrators in New York State right now who make $3,000 or $4,000 a year. They do not like this plan because they are going to be let go. I'm not going to fire them. I don't have to. The district will, though, without question. The district. I'm not going to fire anybody. Remember, I don't force anything. I change the environment and allow the people who they feel is appropriate in their own districts. They will be firing them left and right. Why would you keep them? What's my job? I'm a grant writer for state funds. We don't need it anymore. Bye. Done. What do? I keep track of all the testing for the federal government. We don't require it anymore. Bye. Done. Why do you think you don't have shop in your school anymore, or civics, or home ec? It's not on the test. You get the money from the federal government because the tests. When those tests aren't there anymore, and the money's not coming from the federal government, you can put whatever you want in your school. What do I care? Put what you want in your school. You want to have a gun club in your school? I don't care. You want to have a farming class in your school? Okay. You want to have civics? Great. Why would I bother you? I know I'm nutty. I think parents and communities should care about what their kids learn. I'm nuts. I know it's crazy, but that's how I feel. You should have some of your own power in what your kids learn. I'm okay with that. You want to homeschool? Go ahead. Private school? Go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. Enjoy. If you're unhappy, it's the best part. I ask only one thing always: transparency. I always request transparency, always. Why? Because I want everyone to see what you're doing so they can figure out where you're falling and where you're running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and they can copy. That's all I want. They can see what you're doing. Wow, that's working really well. Do that. Oh, that's messing up. Don't do that. That's great. That's not. We can begin to copy. That's what I want. But I'm still not the most important piece of all of this. If Albany's paying with his coin, why do we need school tax? We don't. School tax goes away. For the average New Yorker, depends on where you live, the average New Yorker, your property tax is cut in half. Some will be more, some less, depends on where you live, but about half. What happens right away? People stay. They stop leaving because your property tax cut in half. People can retire here. Instead of taking their retirement and going to Florida or going to Tennessee and spending the money there, they spend their retirement here. I'd like you to spend your pension here. I'd like you to spend your retirement here. You can do that. But I'm still not done. Hold on. Rents stabilize because property tax goes down. Not just that, the real estate people are happy. Why? Whole lot of buying and selling going on. There we go. Yes, absolutely. Whole lot of buying and selling goes on. And when that begins to happen, the real estate people like it. They're also a very large lobbyist group in this state. Real estate and finance are huge lobbyist groups in the state. You keep both of those people happy, right? Finance is also happy because who finances all of those new businesses and such? Thanks. Yes. You had a question or comment? Sorry, go ahead.
So it's really so if you said funded based off of how many students that school had.
The district had, not the school, the district. Yep.
Say if they pulled from the district because they don't like the school teaching.
They're still in district.
Would they be, well, because I'm just trying to think of like, what would that incentivize the schools to do better then? Because, for instance, if they don't, then it would lessen their budget. And their
If the kids are leaving the district, they're in trouble. If the kids are only in the district, it's the same amount of money.
Because their dollars go away.
Correct. The dollars go with them. The kids aren't leaving the district, doesn't matter. Right? So let's say instead they would lose a little bit because again, if the kid goes to private school or the kid goes to homeschool, the district loses $4,000.
Okay, see, that was my question.
Right? But they still get the other 14. Why? If you're in the district, there's another piece that I talked about, that education plan. If you're in the district, no matter what, whether you're private school or homeschool, you should still be able to use the facilities of your district. So I can be a homeschool kid, but still be in the football team. I can be a private school kid and still join the math club. Does that make sense? Because you're paying for the district. You're part of the district, you can still use the facilities. Right? Does that make sense? That's why it's $4,000. The other 14 goes to the district to fill these places out. Right? If there's going to be a math club, they're paying the teacher to be the math club teacher. Right? That kind of thing. So your kid can still use those facilities. So they're going to learn here and then join the school band or whatever. Why can't you? You're still part of the district. I don't want to break communities up. Right? I'm all about community. I want you part of your community. And you can go learn here and she can learn there and we're all on the same football team. Doesn't matter. Does that make sense? Any other question or comment? Guys, thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Guys, have a good one. Thank you.